as the gentleman pointed out to Acosta, he said, we came with you with this information. We also came with you, which is, it's all public knowledge,
Yeah.
About Russia's complaints, evil Russia's complaint about the Wuhan lab. The Wuhan lab had traditionally had leaks, issues. They weren't following protocol. They weren't following, and it was in the international community. France, Russia, France even at one point tried to help them tighten up their stuff, even though they technically weren't supposed to have a lab to do these things. They said, if you're going to have one, at least do it right, and we'll help you.
Right.
Well, that's public knowledge. So it came down to this, one or two things. One, it happened in a wet market, right? Or it happened in a lab, which was designated to work on COVID type variants. And every time it was brought up by the intelligence community that it was most likely, evidence suggests that it came from a Wuhan, they were racist. Mm-hmm. Because the president called it the Wuhan flu, the Kung Fu flu. He was racist. They were being racist.
You know what's
racist.
You know what's interesting? Think about this. Isn't it more culturally disdainful and more racist to say it came from a wet market that you hate? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Isn't that more racist than saying they have a
world-class
lab? They have a world-class lab. We funded it. Maybe they needed some advice on how to manage the potential leaks. But how is that racist? But a wet market isn't. It's so weird.
It was because it's not weird. It what it is the opposition. And the one thing with liberals, especially, if you don't agree with me, one, you're stupid. Two, you're poor. Or three, you're insane. There is no and because they were so focused on anything to discredit President Trump and his administration, even when it was coming from outside neutral forces saying that there's a pretty good chance it came out of Wuhan, if anyone said it, they were racist. Right. He wanted to put the ban on it. Right. He's racist and he's misogynistic and he's all these things. Yeah. Now he's gone, and now they're trying to say, well, these new evidence. And the intelligence agency said, he goes, listen, Acosta got very defensive and says, we reported this story. He's like, on the back page of your internet, you talked about it. Yeah. But your front page and the only story you cared about was that it was racist and it absolutely happened in a lab.
Have you read in a wet market. There's a very fine Medium article by a guy named Nicholas Wade, I think it is. You see that article?
Yes.
Yeah, I've read it several times now, and I don't know that it's he leaves the door open to other information and potential findings. I mean, the reason they went for the wet market notion was that SARS-1 and MERS, there was evidence of progression through the animals. They had the not the smoking gun so much as the lineage. The science was there to say, there it is, it's moving its way through, then it jumped to humans. There's actually zero evidence of SARS-2 being in any way associated with bats or pangolins or anything else. They've looked for a year and they can't find it, suggesting it's not there. When on the other hand, they have found some sick people, maybe, from the Wuhan lab that need to be investigated at least or discussed.
Well, again, it just goes back to the same thing where motive and science is political. And you have said it a million times, and I don't think you say it enough. When you mix medicine with politicians, people get hurt and we lose good, brilliant minds, because a scientist or a doctor is not concerned with public opinion. They're not concerned with popularity. They're just giving you the facts. They give you a diagnosis. Sometimes the diagnosis will have a worst case scenario and a best case scenario. And doctors usually kind of play in the middle. They give you all. You go to the doctor and you got an issue with your blood pressure. They're going to tell you what the worst outcome could possibly be, what they think it might be. You do some more tests and we'll go from there and we'll get back to you. Mm-hmm. When that was attempted to try to do with the Wuhan lab, it was, you're a racist because we want to push the narrative that President Trump was racist, his administration was racist, and they're attacking Asian Americans. Mm-hmm. That whole narrative was created as a political weapon against, and I hate conspiracies, and this is about facts again and again.
I hate conspiracy thinking.
I'm not into conspiracies. I always go to facts. I don't even entertain them. I won't not have the conversation, because you cannot have a educated conversation with someone who will connect anything. You can't argue with ignorance. And the fact that they were putting more weight that it was coming from a wet market and pantaloons, which I can't possibly think would be delicious, but that they're trying to put that as what happens. And here's the thing. I'm not a scientist, but reading, something I like to do in my free time, it takes a long time. It's not rapid where transition from animal to human, it takes quite a long time for it to, it just doesn't, a bat doesn't sneeze on a human and bam, you got COVID. It has to be in a population where they're continually exposed to it, and it grows. That is more plausible in a lab where it is being bred and raised with human contact, more so than a wet market.
Right.
But we've seen this. We've seen this. You saw this with AIDS, where it was from men having sex with monkeys at one point is where AIDS came from. There's always some outlandish, ridiculous, has something to do with jungles and wet markets where all our major diseases come from.
And you're so right. And it's interesting that the particular changes in the spike protein were the kinds of things that were being researched. Not specifically, it's not a smoking gun. It's not anybody. Here's the point. We're not saying that's what happened. We're saying
there's a theory.
We're saying why the F wasn't this discussed? Why did they suppress it so profoundly? Why were they so unprofessional with the facts? And why is that racist, but a wet lab isn't racist? That we're just questioning things. But the point is, the whole point we started out this with is that when Fauci said that, I thought it was so interesting. It became easier to talk about a lot of things all of a sudden. Like all of a sudden, you could talk about things again. You could talk about things that a year ago people were canceling you or calling you racist for even approaching.
Because now they think it's in their favor. And remember, it's not the right that's calling everybody racist and trying to get them removed and lose their job and doctors ousted for having a medical opinion with some facts base. And again, it's all a theory, and science changes. And as the conditions change, the answers will change. I get that. I understand that. But then again, education is important to me. It doesn't stop when you graduate. You have to continue, especially I'm not a doctor. So, but now it is in their yard. Now there's less likely to attack you because they're trying to make it their own. They're trying to make it their win. It's like Operation Warp Speed was horrible, but everyone being vaccinated is a wonderful thing. It's literally you cannot have it both ways. You cannot like the president's tweets. You cannot like him as a person, but some of his policies, particularly with Operation Warp Speed, was effective. And we all are in a better place today because of that. And tipping your hat to the other side should not be an act of war. And they're trying to very politely make it like they discovered it. There was new information that just came out tomorrow, or yesterday. And that's why it's a little easier to talk now, because you're not getting attacked for talking about something that isn't political to them anymore. Now they need the win.
But it's not just this topic. I noticed it sort of opened up on a lot of fronts. It was kind of interesting. It's not everything, and people still do push back a bit, but it was a sea change. Like overnight, unpalatable topics became okay. Let's think about it, which was very weird. It's kind of interesting that Fauci wielded that kind of power. If I'm right.
I'm disappointed, and I know Dr. Fauci doesn't know me from Adam, but I'm very disappointed that he has a book coming out. And the reason why I said that is from someone of his education, and the fact that he was basically whether you like him or dislike him, he was our voice in terms of how we dealt with this pandemic, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
I don't mind his book after he's retired or no longer in service.
Yeah.
But I just feel a political book, his book talking about truths, I just feel it's very hypocritical of a doctor who often pushed the fact that he was bipartisan, not political, and just the timing of it to me stinks. And look, I have a book that's coming out December 14th. I get it, but he's profiting at least. And again, maybe I need more information, but it just looks like he's profiting from. The timing of it just kind of stinks to me. Fair, but it's just my opinion.
You can also give him a nod for Operation Warp Speed. He was part of that too.
Yeah.
And let's be clear,
100%.
Operation Warp Speed may have saved the world. I mean, why isn't anybody in any other country thankful for what we did? The Germans were part of it. The Germans were in on it. We'll give them some credit too. But it may have saved the world from who knows what kind of misery.
The first person, and maybe it's us, and we're, like I said, we're specs in terms of the political world or whatever, but to tip your hat to everyone on both sides of the aisle, the exiting administration and the entering administration that they can celebrate this together. Mm-hmm. You can say President Trump, his aggressiveness, this was one time that his aggressiveness was a good thing, was a great thing. And it's nothing wrong with saying, and then we took the ball when he handed the ball off to us, we took it and scored. Everyone gets involved. Assist to President Trump. President Biden can have the touchdown, but both sides win. And this is one of those situations where they're very reluctant, but the Democratic Party has to start, and another political spins are out there, but they have to acknowledge you cannot have one without the other. And I think more people are going, yeah, this is stupid. Like 100%, both people involved. It's just, you can't push division when the facts state otherwise.
So here we are where people are chatting a little bit more and things are being talked about and there's pushing back and there's just more discourse. The other thing today would have marked the end of the Tulsa massacre. And as usual for me, I feel embarrassed at some of the things I missed in American history or I didn't learn until, sort of recent era of my life. This is one of them. Again, the other big move for me was when I read Frederick Douglass's biography. Scales fell from my eyes a million different ways. But I'm here, I got here, I paid attention, I got here, so that's good. But the race massacre, and calling it a race riot bothers me. Doesn't it bother you?
No, it's 100% a massacre, and it was calculated. And the attack on, quote, Black Wall Street, you wanted segregation, and then you had a group that was succeeding to the point of everyone in the town was doing very well, and the other town was not. And so
it's so weird and so extreme. I mean, I would love to know. Somebody's got to write a book about what led up to it, so we can understand all those dynamics. Because it couldn't be just a group of guys one night. Hey, we're going to go do this. It's a great idea.
No, but
there must have been a long festering trouble. You know what I mean?
You have to also look at it just like anything else. The difference between now and then is America is more educated, more accepting, and has evolved more. We no longer walk around with pitchforks and attack what we don't know and don't understand. And it was very easy back then to have groups against each other. Yes, this was something that was planned. It was built. The blacks, and it was across America. Former slaves, free men were blamed for every problem that was in this country. Just like when the Irish came, they were blamed. And
you're right.
Our history is ugly.
100%. But it's weird to me that it was Oklahoma. If you had said that was some deeper South thing, I would be like, okay, that makes sense to me, given the post-Civil War stuff. But go ahead.
See, that's the problem with history.
Yeah.
History is often told by the winning side.
Of course.
So there's no secret that the South gets blamed for all the racism. And then you take a place like Louisiana, that was literally a melting pot, that a Creole person, literally good luck figuring out their roots. Yeah. Mixing and melting was more acceptable. There was more, but it sounds good to isolate the racism, to isolate the violence in one area, the South, because that's, the Civil War. And so they got to carry that badge. But a lot of it, especially when you speak, when you look at history or you speak to anyone with African-American great-grandparents and parents who passed stories down, it was terrible to be in the North. It was awful to be coming up from the South and going to the North, where then they were looking like they were coming to take jobs, and they were treated horribly by New York and Boston and all these places. And the same thing. And then African-Americans were moving from the South and the North to the Midwest to buy land and farm, and all the way out to the West Coast to become cowboys. So of course they were going to run into the indigenous people there when they came over. They blamed them as well. So everyone's hands is just as dirty. As just for whatever reason, the microscope has always been on the South, and that kind of has given the Midwest, the West Coast, and the North a pass. But it was all people, groups, history. Ignorance is widespread. It's not just in the South, and then all of a sudden you'd step into Connecticut, and everyone would be like, "Oh, welcome,
right.
Here's a job. Here's some money. Meet my daughter." It's not how it was.
Your point is absolutely well taken. But what I was responding to was, the 20 years following the Civil War was marked by marauding, essentially gangs, which were former Confederate soldiers, who perpetrated untold violence. And we like the violence was so profound for those 20, 30 years that everybody other than African Americans wanted to forget it. You know what I mean? They like put it away,
Right.
even though it's, you know, and so this kind of thing that happened in Tulsa was like, oh, there was horrible shit going on. But so it just surprised me the magnitude of it. That to have what you're describing, no doubt that was happening all over the place. But this kind of a, I mean, it's the magnitude.
I would argue that our history has a lot of secrets, and there's a lot of Tulsas in our history that we just don't know about yet. And it wasn't just, and I don't want to get on my, you know, this is not a referendum on white America. Yeah. This is a referendum on the individuals of that time, and their capacity for thought and their belief systems and how easily people were manipulated. It wasn't, you couldn't, if somebody said that, let's say just random, that Black people were responsible for Thai flu. There's no internet. There's no Dr. Drew to come on TV in 1865 and tell you that there's not, you know,
right.
Those things would spread and they would become truths and people would be violent and they'd be heroes because that, you know, and we saw that, and that is our history. Unfortunately, it's not just into one group. Tulsa is at 100% a massacre, but let's not forget that every group, and I'm not justifying it all. Like it's something I was looking up in history, reading about it. It's shocking. Yeah. But at the same time, because I don't limit myself to just my heritage, looking at what people coming from Sweden went through and Ireland went through. I mean, there was, and our history covers that up too. You know, you always see the cool movies like Gangs of New York where everyone was fighting and defending themselves. That's not usually how it was.
No,
it was a group of cowards that showed up and burned down the home of a guy they had an issue with and killed his family. And, you know, they did things horrible. We have, Americans, human beings, all through history have done horrible things to each other. And it's very easy to say it was one group.
Yep.
It's always the group in power that tends to do horrible things to those underneath it. And then when it changes, you think, oh, the group that's now in charge is going to learn from them. No, when they get advantage, the same thing happens. And we're seeing it today in the social justice where people don't want equality, they want advantage. Because as soon as they get an advantage, what happens? Dr. Drew, you're a racist because you're born white. You can't help yourself. That is no different than in 1950, someone saying, I am a thief and a raper of women because I'm Black and I can't help it. I'm 1 inch removed from an 8. Same thinking. It's just today it's on Twitter and it's called race theory. And you're an oppressor, but you are a man who will literally, if somebody was dying on the street, you wouldn't stop me like, oh, I don't know, that he's light skinned. I sense some, you know, he might be a Negro. I'm not touching him. You didn't matter who it was. You're a doctor and you're a sentient being who cares about mankind. That's where we are today. So I find it interesting when people really want to look at history. You have to look at the whole thing. Tulsa is, the more we learn about it and the more we see how a community can change and how much hate and ignorance is a dangerous thing and how it can be spread. And now, unfortunately, our social media and our internet has become the new Klansmen. They will, one person goes after somebody and a bunch of trolls jump in. Next thing you got a lynch mob. Now, they're not dragging you out of your house and hanging you. They're just ruining your career. They're ruining your family. They're causing so much mental anguish to where we see suicide is up. Young girls on the internet, every time they get on there and post a picture, and if someone says you're ugly, they don't like them, like that's the most dangerous population. Doesn't matter what color they are, but they're attacked and they're treated horribly. It's different. It's just a different platform.
That's right. I'm reminded of, you know, again, I'm thinking of what happened in 1921 in Tulsa. You got to remember in 1919, there was a race riot in Chicago, speaking of the North being culpable, that ended in a massacre-like phenomena. You know what I mean? It was nasty.
Yep.
It wasn't as horrible as Tulsa, but it was like the beginning of all that, right? And that's the reminder, as you were reminding us, in the North.
You can't have change, unfortunately, with human beings without bloodshed. It's just, now you and I are sitting here having a conversation because we are the result of the winning side. It's no longer, you know, times have changed. Now it's verbal. It's not physical anymore. If you and I were having dinner somewhere and a waiter came up and goes, Dr. Drew, I'll serve you, I'm not serving him. He wouldn't have his job anymore. He would not be applauded.
Right.
They would not escort me out. People would literally stop eating there. You would post, went out to dinner with Tyrus tonight, and somebody racially attacked my friend. That whole business would have to change everything, because our society, we have grown. We understand now. We do not tolerate that stuff. Doesn't mean we're not always going to have bad actors. We're always going to have bad actors. And an actor does not check in racial divides. You have black, white, brown, Asian, all mixed between. They're just bad, evil people who are ignorant and, of course, blame the easiest thing they can do. I don't like you because you have perfect white hair. I only have, my hair is spotted. I have spots of white. You clearly there's something wrong with you. You've done something, so I hate you because of my own wretchedness. I mean, that's literally what it is. It's not, racism's changed now in this country. It's no longer, there's not any much power as it used to be, where a group of people would get together and lynch somebody and they would be praised for it.
Yeah.
The sheriff would cover it up for him, would help them hide the bodies.
It's crazy.
That's not how it is anymore. You know, we've come that far. There's always going to be work. We always need to be better. And now we're seeing the thing where we were giving so much, the country has earned together so much equality to where we're seeing it targeted, and we're taking a step back. Mm-hmm. There was a point in my life, Dr. Drew, and I'd love to hear your take on this. I have been black my entire life.
What? How
weird.
No,
I want you to understand, but here's where it gets confusing for you. Maybe I'm asking you. You came to me about a couple months ago when you were troubled. Help me with this one.
All right.
So I have children of all walks. I got a Pacific Islander son. I have a Hispanic daughter. I have African-American daughter, and I have an African-American daughter, but her mother's white. And my mother was white and my father was black. At no time, and I'm not talking about racist white people, I'm talking about very polite white people. I would come in a room, and if there was the nicest white person in the room and the nicest black person in the room, the nicest black person would say to me, "You're half black, aren't you? You're just like me." And the white person, as polite as they can, would be like, "You're half black, aren't you? You're black." For some reason, I could never be white in our society. And I started to see a change in the last 10 years. The biracial thing started, and I was insulted by it. You're not biracial. No, because no one's saying the first biracial president.
Yeah.
Barack Obama is black, his mother's white, but he's not. But if Barack Obama would have came out when he became president, he says that I identify as white, like my mother and my grandmother who raised me and took care of me, he would be destroyed. He would be an Uncle Tom. He would be this. And they'd be like, you can't be white.
Right.
And we started to see a change where people, and I struggle with it, where someone of mixed race would say, I'm biracial, or I identify as white. And we started to see that. And now that has gone away.
It's gone away.
Now
in the wokeness, in the woke thing.
In the wokeness. Now you can't be. Now it is, you're black and you're oppressed and the whites are evil. We're no longer seeing the utopia of the melting pot. We're kind of starting to see, and who is pushing that narrative? It's not Earl the racist in Tennessee. It's the woke brother in New York that's pushing that narrative. We're seeing a shift, and we were doing so well, and we're in a great place. But how do you explain that?
I think,
or can you even?
I don't know that you can. Number one, I would think a couple things come to mind. One was, well, you can trace a lot of stuff back to President Trump, right? That he fueled.
This is bigger than President Trump.
But I'm just saying, people developed an emotional reaction that some people call it Trump derangement syndrome, that spooled up a lot of things that were kind of sitting there. Then you throw the pandemic into that. Then you throw in, January 6th into that, and people are I'm completely exercised about everything all of a sudden. So there's this emotional intensity to everything. The other side is, I wonder if the fact that everyone was becoming sort of mixed, that it was just that you could see that the things were just getting mixed. And I wonder if people were threatened by that they didn't want that so much as a separate autonomous. And that kind of makes sense to me, that people want to hang on to their autonomous identity. And the idea that everyone's just sort of starting to become European and African American, it just. And by the way, let's be super clear, from a biological perspective, That's the healthiest thing. Genetic admixturing is the healthiest thing.
Exactly.
Why we evolved in a way to sort of set up camps separately is weird biologically, because the more mixing, the better the opportunity is genetically. So I don't know quite what it's a really good example of it's hard to know history when you're living it. You have to kind of look back at it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you don't always find the answer, but it's okay to ask the question.
Well, fine. Listen, if you'd asked the question 2 weeks ago, I would have been uncomfortable answering. I would have been like, I don't know, what is the reaction to be? Oh, crap.
You're whatever you want to be. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good, Tyrus. You're just good. You're just good. I'm bad. You're good. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize for your not fully blackness. I'll work on it. Which is ridiculous.
It is interesting that again, that's another historical arc, how you're not allowed, even if you want to choose to go another way.
Well, you're scrutinized for it, and I am not innocent of that. I have judged my brothers and sisters based on their behaviors, and if someone comes from an affluent family who did very well, and they speak the king's English very well because they came from a very nice home of well-to-do, I immediately said, "Oh, they trying to be white. They trying to be." You get caught up in the ignorance of that, and how you talk has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It has to do with the environment you grew up with. There are in my neighborhood, we were a melting pot. It was all but the white kids in my neighborhood talk the same as I did. We all were a bunch of little hood brats running around all summer on bikes. We never said, "Hey, white boy, you can't ride with us." It was, "You gonna ride with us?" Because we didn't care. We were all poor together. We honestly didn't know we were poor, but I didn't figure that out until I got to college. It was like, "What, y'all got cars and color TVs? What the hell?" My mom needs to step her game up, but we don't see it as much now because of this new awakening.
Yes.
But it's not coming from your people. It's coming from my people. And it's disheartening to see the turn of white people are bad and they need to be removed and they can't be in commercials anymore. And you can't, cast them in movies. We have to push this narrative that they have to go. That is no better than what was happening to us in the 1800s. I mean, it's literally the same thing. You don't want equality.
Yeah.
You want advantage. And that's not what America is about. We were about that. And we went through, I would say, in terms of looking at the rest of the world, a very speedy recovery in terms of race issues and things like that. I mean, you look in other places, they don't mix at all. You just happen. I was like in Canada, I always would laugh when I was in Canada for a little while, how it was broken down to each white group. So, you had Scandinavians here and Irishes here, and this group was there. There was a lot of mixing. I was like, damn, where does a brother go for a beer? Like if the Scandinavians don't want the Irish in there, then where am I going to go? Is that still wherever happening? You go, you find it.
Is that happening?
I haven't been in Canada in a minute, man. I haven't been in Canada in a minute, but I'm just saying that each area has their own thing. And it's the same thing in Africa with brothers of different tribes treat each other differently. The history in Africa, you look how we treated each other over there. Not kind, not good. Ask India. Ask India about Africa. Slaves that we still have in the world today are Indians in parts of Africa that are still enslaved, that are treated as such, that are treated less than human beings. And we never hear about it.
Well, I am interested in some of the history. I have friends that are African, and whenever I ask them about the history, they go, we don't worry about it. We don't talk about it. We don't think about it. And that always says to me that there's something they don't want to think about.
Right.
And there was a lot of, I don't know, horrible stuff went on.
Our human history is, for every wonderful invention, for every momentous moment of flying around the world, there's at least 2 decades of murder, rape, pillaging,
way more than that,
and destroying. For per capita.
Yeah.
And of course we don't want to talk about the fact that we were literally one group had the upper hand and they would capture and sell. And history books didn't really tell. It wasn't like 5 white guys with muskets and nets showed up in Africa and started catching Africans and putting them on ships. It was they came to the shoreline politely with trading goods with African kings and overseers that they were rounding up what they considered less than less than human beings, different people of different tribes and religions,
is that
etc.
what it was, or was it that, or was there tribal or even national warfare
Yeah,
going
when
on?
there was wars, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you had great kings, you had great civilizations.
Yeah.
When the Moors, I mean, you literally Italy got curly hair because they messed with the Moors. You know, I mean, that's as polite as I can put it.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, and our history, yeah, they went over there very politely, and they brought, you know, trading goods and spices, and they got manual labor, and they would load up boatloads.
I mean,
millions died on the trip over, but
yeah.
It wasn't white America doing that. And that's what when you look at the critical race theory tries to kind of hint at. But we're all, if you look at history straight up, every group has an ugly moment. Some groups 2 or 3.
But to be
fair, no one's clean.
To be fair, our really stupid / disgusting moment was when we it really was Alexander Hamilton striking the deal for the Constitution by, you know, giving the South the partial humanity count.
Right, and that was an attempt to try to cover up the ugliness of who we are. You tried to hide it with bad science
and allow them to maintain the slavery. I mean, there you know, there were Northerners that were like, we don't want a constitution with that country. I mean, the South was like other countries compared to New York and Massachusetts, and we don't want an alliance with that country who has that institution. Forget it, we're not interested. But they made a deal, and that deal was a deal with the devil. And I think we thought we sort of washed our sins clean a little bit in the Civil War, but clearly we have not.
No, because again, human beings are consistent. And unfortunately, what they don't often know, there's a group of us that if they don't understand it, if they're not used to it, they're fear of it. And when you're afraid of something, you run from it or you attack it. Mm-hmm. And, and when you get 2 or 3 cities together or groups of people who form things like the Klan and et cetera, and the groups that are for a common good, instead of looking at what they're really doing, like you have a 3rd grade education, you can't hold a job. Yeah, absolutely, 100% it's a brother's fault. Right. It's not, but it's a lot easier than looking in the mirror. And that's the problem with humanity, is we rather blame someone who looks different than us than actually blame the person, which is us. You know.
Yeah, you said something about the woke. You weren't really talking about wokeness so much today, but you were talking about the cancellation instinct. You said something about it's actually my own wretchedness. What did you mean by that? What did you mean?
We tend to try, and it goes back to the same thing. It's our own ugliness that we project onto others.
Right.
But it's a lot easier. It's just like you're dealing with hatred and insecurity. You deal with it when you're dealing with mental health issues.
Yes. You're yes, and yes. But don't you think you're absolutely correct that projecting has gone way up in the last. Something about COVID sent that sky high, or Trump, one or the other. So one of the others seemed to do that.
You know what? Here's the thing. That's another thing too. Is when we start blaming politicians for their bad behavior. Let's not forget they're elected.
Yeah.
For that, because they represent people who like that bad behavior.
Yeah.
That people who believe in that more so than they do. A lot of times politicians pander to, like, and behind closed doors they're like, they're an idiot. I'm never going to do that, but I'll say it in a speech if they'll vote for me. But to them, it's true. Yep. And that's the issues we're dealing with now. But again, there's a difference between blaming somebody or someone out of just sheer ignorance and harboring hatred and wanting to hurt somebody. And we're seeing the during the pandemic, it was a lot of finger pointing and blaming and this, that, whatever, and ugliness. But it wasn't the same as, let's say, I think there was a line. It's more so we're seeing it more on the social media and the intellectual level as far as attacking people than saying me and a bunch of my guys getting together going, we're going to go lynch a white doctor tonight because he's giving me a bad prognosis. So there is some change to that. But unfortunately now we're finding that in some cases it's probably better for you and your psyche to get beat up and heal from that than be pounded mentally on Twitter and lose your job and be shunned in your community. An allegation can literally ruin your life with no facts behind it. They don't need facts. It has to be said. And I'd rather get beat up. Honestly, at least I got a fighting chance.
Somebody beating
you. You can throw a wild haymaker, and you literally wake up in the morning and 10,000 people that you don't know are telling you all these horrible things that are the furthest thing from the truth.
Well, with somebody's beating you up, that person or even a few people would have skin in the game, while
Yeah.
there's no skin in the game if you're on Twitter
No,
just
you don't
attacking
even.
people. You have zero
A guy with a
consequence.
picture of a kitty cat on Twitter with a fake
Yeah.
name is trying to destroy your career.
Yeah.
Which
Okay,
is the new hood.
So as a question here from Leopold, he wants to know about the mainstream media's obsession about black men dying at the hands of cops as opposed to black men generally dying from violent crime.
Oh, that's easy. Headlines.
Yeah.
Ratings. People stop. Unfortunately, you can see it whenever there's a same race crime shooting. It's in the news for about 3 minutes. I can always tell when it's especially if it's a black man being murdered at the hands of a white man or a white police officer. It is headline news because race still sells, because we're so shocked by it. And people, I didn't realize it was out there. I didn't realize it was going on.
Wow, it's interesting.
I have been on.
I really thought of it
100%.
I hadn't thought of it that clearly. It's the way they use sex in the 70s. We use race in the 2020s. That's
because you're
wild.
not going to pay attention. A Hispanic man walks into a Mexican restaurant and shoots everybody up.
And you can't sell with sex anymore because pornography just people aren't moved by it anymore.
But here's the deal: we're all racist. We're all racist undertones, and then we miss when something really needs to be addressed. Here's the problem with progress and getting to a point where you can look back and say we've made it. You now have people who can create and control racism. They can control these phantom problems because they're not real problems. Yes, is there a problem with a bad cop putting hands on anyone? But if you did it every time a poor white kid got pulled over and had to lay on the curb because they searched his car for meth because they assumed because he lives in a trailer park that him and his mom booked meth together, we never hear about that. He gets his front teeth kicked out. He gets beat down. The worst, I've had 2 really bad instances with police officers in my life. And one of them, the one that I still wake up at night about, which was more than the time I had a gun to my head, who said, "Don't you move, I'll blow your fucking brains out." And I was literally sitting on the couch playing an Xbox and they kicked in the door in the wrong house. And I was just got home from college and next thing you know, I'm on the ground. And this guy I thought he was going to shoot me. I was in high school and his white kid named Gary. We were over his house just hanging out, and we were out late, and we were standing outside his porch, and I think we were sneaking beer from his dad or something stupid like that. And one of the neighbors called the sheriff's on us. And the sheriff comes up. You got 2. It was me, I think, my boy Ralph, and he was black and Hispanic, and I'm black, and we're standing up there, and Gary's there, and Gary's about as white as you are. You couldn't get any whiter. He even had freckles and blonde hair. He looked like a Jack Dennis the Menace. He's a defensive tackle. And the sheriff came up and he had his gun out, and Ralph and I just froze, didn't say a word because we just knew from our growing up that you don't talk to the police. They talk to you and you hope it's over. Gary didn't grow up that way. And the first thing that he said was, "Officer, there's no need for you to have your gun out, sir." Mm-hmm. And he told us, to get on the ground, and we did exactly what he said, and Gary wasn't going to do it. He's like, "This is ridiculous. I got some beers from my friends. I'm sorry. It's my fault." And the cop didn't like the way he was talking to him in front of us, and struck him, and then stun gunned him. And we're standing there in horror while this is going down, and the sheriff is 5 feet away. And as Gary lays there, and I still wake up about this, and he was like, "Just leave my friends alone." And then the scariest thing is when they were handcuffing him, the sheriff goes, "If he would have made a move to me, I would have shot him with this." And that's when I learned that cops had 2 guns. And he pulled out the gun from the small of his back. I guess he had a little haste, and I would have shot him with this, and I would have shot you guys with this. So you boys did the right thing by not moving. We were let go, and luckily Gary's mother and father eventually came out, and they let Gary go, but not after he was stun gunned and beat and handcuffed and all these things. That story wouldn't have made the news. This is exactly what would have happened. And I'm telling you right now, when the reporter from CNN or whomever called to get the story and they said, "What happened to the 2 young black guys?" Nothing. They just stood there. It was the white kid who was handcuffed and beat down for standing up for his friends. That's it.
No story.
All right. Yeah, that's in the back pages.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's weird. So let's transition this conversation over a little bit to the media and what their responsibility is. I feel like they harmed people during this pandemic with some of the demands they put on the government, you know, that and the things they didn't investigate, the things they didn't report. Do you feel that there should be like a commission or something, or maybe the courts have to work this through a little
I don't
bit?
even need to be that serious. You know, we just need them to tell one simple truth. When I was a kid, I turned on KTLA Channel 5 in Pasadena, California. There was the news, and then there was a guy who came on and gave you, usually a little weird guy, who gave you an opinion. And at the bottom, it said editorial, and the expressions and comments by such and such do not reflect that of KTLA. This is an editorial.
That's right.
We need to have media personalities declare whether they are news anchors who tell the news as it happens without their personal insight. They're basically telling us what they saw, what we saw, and those who are opinionated shows. I would argue that you cannot, because the opinionated shows are overbearing and taking over actual journalism.
You can't tell the difference anymore.
You cannot tell the difference.
Right.
And that is the problem.
That is the problem. But the news as such is no longer a business model. It just doesn't attract eyes, doesn't attract ears. You can just go get it off the internet.
But that should be okay.
Well, then you need something like the BBC here or something.
We should all start watching PBS for just news, or when a show comes on. Here's the deal, and I'm a little biased because but I'm an opinion comedian. At Fox, I'm not a news anchor, and I have no problem saying that. I give my opinion the best I can, and I try to look at both sides. But I'm human like everybody else. But I know who my news people are. I know Bill Hemmer and Dana Perino in the American Newsroom are news people. I know that Brett Baer is a news person. I know that Faulkner is a news person. I know Hannity's opinion show. I know Greg Gutfeld's an opinion show. Waters is an opinion show. Juan Williams is opinion. Geraldo Rivera is opinion. Like, I know who's who and what's what. So if I want the news, I'll go to Brett. If I want, this, that, whatever. I would argue that Jake Tapper is a news guy. Wolf Blitzer is a news guy. I would have that argument. Cuomo's not a news guy. Don Lemon's not a news guy, because I know their personal beliefs on every story. So that is a difference. But there are
editors. There are editors behind Wolf and behind Tapper that are pushing their opinions through, and it's the editors that are really the problem. The people that decide what goes on the air. But what else coming up tonight on Gutfeld?
We got some serious jokes. We got Emily and Peter on. Pete Hedgeff and Emily Campagnano are on, and the crew's all together. So we got a good little show tonight. It's be a lot of fun. And then of course, the pre-sales for my book is out. Just Tyrus. And you can pick that up on Barnes and Nobles and Amazon. And we're already, which is shocking and scary, we're already a bestseller in the wrestling biographies. And so we're doing pretty well. In fact, no one's ready yet.
Great.
So no pressure though. And I know you've written some things. You've done some things. Pre-sales, I never thought would bother me so much, because it's like, I feel like it's putting just so much pressure on me that this better be good, because people are buying it before they read it. So, it's just a little scary. Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
And yes, that photo cover was inspired by Janet Jackson's album cover.
Oh, that's fantastic.
No one's hands were big enough to cover my chest. So I had to do it myself.
That's great. Oh, that's so funny. Well done. So
thank you, sir.
I was watching last night on Gutfeld, or I wish I could remember something you said just cracked my ass up. You were making fun of Greg for something. Oh, well.
Oh, well, it's a long line.
Yeah, I know. There's something though that really I was like, oh my God, that is it's such a direct hit. But anyway, I can't remember it now.
No one takes hits like Gutfeld. No one takes hits. It's almost not fun. I feel like, if you've ever seen the movie Little Shop of Horrors,
yes.
he is Bill Murray, and I am Steve Martin. No matter what I do with that drill, he just wants more, and he's just like, he's the only guy happy to be in the dentist chair. Normal people would hate me after some of the cracks, but Greg is literally like, you know what else you do? You do it again. When he starts encouraging me, I'm like, don't talk. He goes, he tries to get me out of my comfort zone with his little creepy jokes, and I try to rein him in. So it's a interesting dynamic, but we never rehearse anything.
No, I know.
It just kind of just happens.
There's been a lot more stature jokes that you've been diving into lately. I noticed too.
Yeah, the teasing about his little.
His height was off limits for a little while. Now it's like,
well,
right in there.
the night I said I said, Greg, you're small, SM all. He, he just realized. I think when I call him small, he still feels big. You know what I'm saying? When someone's 6'8" tells you you're short, that's also applies if you're 6 feet. If you're 6'2", 6'4", you're still short. In his case, what, 4'11" and a half?
Yeah.
So it's a little, what? I'll give him an inch or two, but but I think he's okay with that. I think if Dana Perino makes height jokes, it's a problem.
Right. Right.
So
Dana is small. She is small.
Yeah, but she is vicious. She is vicious. She can be a bully. She made fun of my shoes last week, and I was like, I'm still thinking about payback. She said I was wearing mint shoes and feminine.
I forgot that she was a press secretary. I can't remember that. That's something.
She's a gangster. And she's another one who 99% of the time leaves her personal opinions out and just communicates the news for us to digest and think about. And that's one of the things I admire about her so much. And Bill Hemmer, the same thing, man. I love being a part of America's newsroom because they tell it like it is, and then they ask me stuff, and I, of course, I always have emotional answers for an emotional guy. But I try to bring the news with them. I try to mimic them the best I can.
I interviewed Dana once, and her listening skills were so good. I mean, she just listens with an intensity. It's sort of, you don't get that sort of attention much.
She would be a good detective.
Yeah.
She would solve a lot of murders.
Yeah.
Like in a very polite way. very polite
sweet
way. Yes.
Be like Columbo, female Columbo. Like just one more thing. Just one more.
You said 2 hours ago that you got to the house at 8:00, but the photo shows that it's 9:00 when you're there. This is a problem. Do you see? And she'll get a lot of confessions. So
I heard
but a great team.
I heard Juan was leaving. Is that true?
You know what? I really, if he's leaving for retirement, then he's definitely earned it. I think he's one of the hardest working men in the industry. It's not easy to play on the road every day. It takes a special kind of human being to go on a show that you're outgunned every day and show up. So whenever I'm on the 5 or whenever I get a chance to work with the great Juan Williams, I'm always respectful. I don't agree with him on much, but I have learned so much from him. So I hope if he is moving on to greener pastures, or in his case, cherry blossom trees, but those are his favorite. And a lot of people don't realize he has one of the best documentaries I've ever seen.
Oh, what's it on?
It's on HBO Max. It's on HBO. It's the Dick Cavett Muhammad Ali relationship. It is phenomenal, and Juan is phenomenal in that documentary, and it has nothing to do with politics. It's great journalism. It's a great story, and I learned a lot. I always think of Howard Cosell and the great Muhammad Ali, but Dick Cavett and him had an amazing relationship, and it wasn't where Howard Cosell was always trying to trap him and get him into some problem and get something, where Dick Cavett and his relationship was a genuine love and respect at a time when Ali was considered the bad guy. And a lot of his growth and experience in America embracing him had a lot to do with Dick Cavett letting him have his platform and be himself. And it was literally this, if you want to break it down, the race thing, this little tiny white guy and one of the greatest athletes to ever put on a pair of shorts. And it was a true friendship. And it was just entertaining as you could not believe some of the stuff they did together and how Cavett would call him out. It was just an amazing relationship.
Interesting. I mean, Cavett was more impactful than people realize. He made some very important interviews and had extremely insightful points of view.
And he wasn't afraid to call you on your shit. Like that dude, it's anyone who's never seen it, you should really check it out.
And what is there? Do you know the name of it?
I think it's like The Relationship, or it's like Cavett and Ali. It's like it's got like a yellow cover to it, but it's not hard to find.
Very cool.
Type it in. We can find anything now. So
very cool. Well, my friend, let's see if there's any questions on our restream here. You guys have anything you want me to address here? There's a lot of vaccine talk I see going around. You get the vaccine?
I'll let you handle that.
Did you get it?
Yeah, absolutely. Moderna, 2 shots done. Got my card. Want to see it? Carry it with me next to my driver's license. I do, because I like having my mask off. And if anyone says, "Oh, sir, bam, vaccinated, 2 shots, back up."
Yeah.
If anybody came late and they're going to rewatch this whole show, I'm going to upload the entire version on YouTube and Facebook, because Have a very choppy show today.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because we restarted, and when I went in, it didn't go up on YouTube, so it just popped up early, like late on Facebook, but I'll have the full version on YouTube.
Okay, I'll put it up.
And then,
because that was good.
Doc, I got you.
We had a lot to talk
you. It's always
about.
a pleasure being with Doctor. I miss our talks. I always feel
Come back.
enlightened afterwards. Anytime. Oh, I'm back. And then, Dr. Drew, you and I have to have a conversation because I have a medical question for you, but it's coming from Ingrid, and it has to do with type 1 diabetics and their moms being fitness trainers. Like, and hear me out.
Okay.
Real quick. We got this for another day, and you need to talk to Ingrid about it, but I said I would bring it to you.
Okay.
There's a large population in the Mandeville, Louisiana area where there is a lot of fitness moms in the same industry, an unbelievable number, and all their children, like one of their children, 10 are type 1 diabetics. Now, when I first hear them talking in their little groups, I didn't think much of it, but then I realized this is a small population, and I'd be very interested to find, and again, she's an expert on it, and I said, you know what, Dr. Drew could solve this riddle.
It's not going to be about the fitness. I'll assure you of that.
That's what I kept saying. Yeah. I was saying the same thing. It is extraordinary.
Unless and the kids are not obese or anything, right? The kids are they're childhood diabetics.
Yes.
There is a whole line of thinking. Let's say, I don't even want to call it a theory, that diabetes is a viral illness. And so it's possible that is a viral cluster. In other words, a virus that knocks out the beta cells in genetically prone kids. Now, the question would be, why are there so many genetically prone kids in that area? Or was there just some specific viral outbreak or something? Kind of interesting question. It needs to be studied.
Yeah. The one thing I thought would be curious was that women who tend to spend their life in physical activity, exercising, in great shape, could testosterone maybe have? I don't know.
I mean, it's possible, but it have to be, in utero stuff, and I don't know of any in utero risk factors for. I'll look it up, but in utero risk factors for type 1 diabetes, and you could also argue that maybe there was something about the dietary restrictions or something that the kids were subjected to. But I doubt it. I really doubt it. Let's see.
I'll let you guys have that conversation, but I brought it to the table. There is witnesses, so I'll let y'all figure it out. But
hang on, I'm looking it up.
He has to look it up. You stumped him.
I'm looking at in utero risk factors. See if there's anything. No. Oh, what factor? Known risk factors. Having a parent or brother. Blah blah blah. Yeah, there's nothing in utero that jumps out, but it doesn't mean that's not the case. So,
right. All right. Well, I'll leave that to investigation. Sounds like an awesome documentary.
Yeah. All right, but not a great talk show. So, all right, my friend, we're coming to New York next week, and I think I'm doing Gutfeld. I don't know which night. Which night?
Thursday, Friday.
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 The 11th.
I think I'm there Tuesday and Wednesday next week, but I gotta double back.
It's not
so
next week.
Sure
it's the week after.
Oh, it's the week after.
The week after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I might family vacation possibly. I gotta look.
No. Wait a minute, Susan. It's next week.
Huh?
It's next week. We're going to New York next week. Huh?
Well, yeah. Friday. Typically, he doesn't let me do
Okay,
Fridays because it's an early day. So,
I can't believe it. We're going.
You can have my chair, Doc. How about that?
All right. No. I'm not worthy. Not worthy. I loved having Matt Whitaker in there that time. That was really pretty fun. That dude was substantial. He was a substantial guy.
Yes. Yes, he was.
So I hope he comes back.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
So, all right. Listen, we'll see you hopefully in
Come
New York.
back soon,
and
hopefully we'll have a whole show without. Don't look at the numbers because it's all chopped up.
All right, everyone come see it.
That's all good. I honestly, I enjoy talking to Dr. Drew. I wouldn't care if 2 people watched.
Good.
So, it's a point of, I brag to my friends. I mean, they're like, oh, you know what, man? Let me talk to Dr. Drew. I'll get back to you guys. Like, Dr. Drew,
Well, I tried a few times, but you were so busy. Yeah. Like, I think you were running a corporation and taking care of your kids.
I still am. I still am the GM. I still am the GM of Sensible Meals.
The big house move too. Is that coming up soon?
Yes, that's coming down. That's going down. A lot of what have yous and whatnots going on right now, but and I was trying to finish the and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
So
you were busy, but we'll have
we'll
you back.
again. We'll get you good.
Yep. Anytime, Doc.
All right,
Anytime.
All right.
All right.
Talk soon.
Take care.
All right, see you, my friend. And for those of you on the restream, we appreciate you guys hanging out and staying with, in spite of our little technical challenges.
Yeah, that was weird.
But whatever.
You know what? I left the computer on for a few days. And
I know. I think that might have done it.
Yeah,
So.
I can't do that anymore.
All right, I will tell you what. We're going to wrap this thing up. I'm actually hungry, so that's the reason. So, tomorrow we are on at. Hold on.
We're gonna have tomorrow. I don't know. I have a hair appointment, so it's just gonna be late.
No, I'm actually going to the Union Rescue Mission downtown, and we're doing a little walk.
I know you keep booking your days up, so it's kind of screwing up our.
Well, it's gonna be like about this time again tomorrow, so late-ish, and then on Thursday it'll be more normal.
We have Ask
time.
Dr. Drew at 3:00 Pacific
Thursday,
and then we'll be taking
the
Clubhouse calls, and then on Friday we have Dr. Bruce Patterson, Dr. Ram.
On Friday,
9 in the morning.
Right, 9 a.m.
So we're gonna do a really early one for all you guys who are in other foreign countries and early birders.
Yes.
I think we should start doing one a week because then the rest of the country can, or the rest of the world.
All right, so we're gonna look forward to Dr. Yogendra, Dr. Patterson, and on Thursday Friday 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Mm-hmm.
Then tomorrow,
I don't know if we'll have a guest. I'll work on it.
And then what day are we doing the Clubhouse? Is that Thursday?
Thursday. Ask Dr.
Clubhouse.
Drew.
Okay, we'll do a Clubhouse.
Yeah, and we'll hopefully get some good questions and just goof around, have some good times.
I'm straight.
Figure out how to get the whole show to go up and not be have a problem. Ay.
Clubhouse.
It's nice to see you guys catch up.
I know, it's good. We have a lot to talk about. We started talking like that when we were over at Gutfeld, so I knew there'd be a lot.
Steak tonight, Leopold said. Yes, we're making steak.
Yes, Leopold. Leopold, I was thinking about you and your persistent symptoms. Are you okay? Or maybe we should get on the phone. I was going to call you over the weekend, or at least maybe yesterday.
Okay, so I think if you want to see the whole show, you can go to Twitch. Because that made it up, I think. That actually went back. When I shut down the show and went back, Facebook and YouTube kind of took a little bit of work. So, but I'm going to upload the whole show if you just tuned in on YouTube and Facebook. And but check it out on Twitch. It'll be up there for a few weeks. And share if you care. That was a really nice conversation.
All right. And so again, Friday morning, Yogendra and Patterson. We've been waiting for that conversation for quite some time. Thursday with Clubhouse. Tomorrow, we're not quite sure. Tomorrow will be late in the day like today.
Like evening.
And,
probably like really late. Maybe
6 o'clock.
Maybe
like
7.
Okay. But I will have a lot to talk about.
Pacific.
I'm going downtown Los Angeles, and I'm meeting with a few people on the streets there. And we will see you then tomorrow at 5 or 6 Pacific time.
Okie dokie.
HYDRALYTE.com/DRDREW. Be sure to use the code Dr. Drew 25 for a special discount.